Welcome to Flight Past. My name is Simon. I hope you can hear me. That was me just checking myself. So welcome to Flight Past. This is the stream where if you're expecting lots of flying around and talking about pilot procedures, you're probably in the wrong place, so you better skip along to someone else who's flying their 747s non-stop across the Atlantic. In this stream, what we do is we use the flight simulator and essentially we use its photogrammic imagery and satellite imagery to essentially take a look at some of the key moments in history and see if we can see from the helicopter and the drone whether we can spot some reasons why some decisions were made and how terrain essentially affected the decisions at the time. Now, this is a number of series that we've been doing over the past year. We've done D-Day 1944, and we've looked at the Waterloo campaign. So if you want to go and check that out, after they've disappeared off Twitch, they should be uploaded on YouTube, so you can go back and check that out. You'll see also that this is a series on the Falklands War, so a few preliminaries then, just for anyone who's new. You should see the subject is the top left. You can see Guy at the back is one of my co-pilots, and he'll be making sure I don't crash, and checking my facts and figures. And in the centre at the top is where the locality, which is actually not where we are right now, but where we will be going to. And on the top right hand corner is the date. So we're talking here about a period between the 11th and the 14th of June 1982, and this is because this is a continuation of our playlist on the Falklands War. So again, if you want to go back and watch some of the previous episodes, you can, to get yourself up to speed. But what we've done in the last stream, we looked at what was known as the deadly lull, and it was the time between the Argentine surrender at Goose Green on the I think it was the 8th of June 1982. We followed this sort of a week's period up to about the 8th of June, sorry, 29th of May 1982 to the 8th of June 1982, and that was when the Sir Galahad was bombed, and resulting in one of the largest losses of life, or the largest losses of life of the British Armed Forces during this war, and that was when mainly affecting the Welsh Guards. And so we looked into that, and so now we are looking at a few days later, and it's essentially the battles for the Stanley Hills. And it's the dates you can see is from the 11th to the 14th of June 1982. We are here currently flying over San Carlos Bay, and this was the bay that was selected for the landings. The hills around this bay and water could be defended using Rapier missile batteries, and essentially this is where the offloading of troops and equipment was being handled. And we've got live weather on at the moment, so if it gets too poor quality, we'll change the weather, because we need to make sure we can see what we're talking about. So just over here on our left is San Carlos, the port of San Carlos, and this is where we left the troops being offloaded of 3 para and 45 Commando. And because of the Atlantic conveyor being sunk by an Exocet missile, around about just after the landings happened here, but before they moved, 45 Commando and 3 para had to yomp if you're a Marine, and tab if you're a para, essentially across the island. So what we're going to do then today is we're going to follow this movement, these troop movements, as they walked across the island, because they didn't have any helicopter support. Luckily we've got one, so we'll be able to see the route that they took. And we're going to essentially try to finish up today with the battles. We're going to look into the individual battles of the hills surrounding Stanley, and essentially this is the last sort of hurrah of the war, leading up to the Argentine surrender. So hopefully we'll get that done today. If you've got any questions, and please feel free to ask them. I'm an amateur historian, so let me know if I get anything wrong, or you think I've said something wrong. I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there who are much more knowledgeable about the events, but I'm really interested in the sort of in the distances, the topography, the terrain. So I'm going to try and host it by looking at the ground. And so if anyone has any information they want to share, then please do. And feel free to do this after the event. So if you're watching back on YouTube, then any questions I will answer in streams coming in the future. And another little bit of bureaucracy as well. There's some tabs you'll see coming up if you're watching on mobile, and these will lead to the different playlists. They'll be coming up every sort of 5 minutes at the top of each stream. And the music that you get at the end of when I have a break is all by myself. It's under the name Praten, and you can actually download all that music for free. Just go to Bandcamp, and you don't even have to give me an email. You can just download it for free and go and grab that. Right, so as you say, now just before 2 para was sent off down to our right here to capture Goose Green, and that was they were sent off to capture that on the 28th and 29th. Just before that, Brigadier Thompson orders the 45 Commando and 3 para to essentially set off and yomp their way along this route we're taking now. Now, 45 Commando will take this sort of route we were doing here straight to a place called Teal Inlet, and so they will be tabbing across this way. Sorry, the 3 para will be directly going towards towards the mountain, and the Marines will actually move around. They will yomp around to the north via a place called Douglas. So if we just zoom in here, so 3 para is going to march essentially straight across to this area around about here. This is Teal Inlet, and 45 Commando yomp around to a place called Douglas over here, and then on to Teal Inlet. And essentially what they're trying to do here is establish a forward operating base for Brigadier Thompson, so that they can move. They're using San Carlos as a sort of as a kind of a forward a port, as it were, and then if they can capture Salvador Bay and Teal Inlet, then they can then move these LCUs that they use, these landing craft utility boats, around the north, the headland of the Falklands, and essentially start landing supplies around Teal Inlet and a place called Estancia. So Teal Inlet would be the place where they would be landing stuff, and then they move them forward to this forward operating base, basically a supply base at Estancia. So we're going to head across here now as if we're the 3 para. So this is the ground that they yomped across. And this was done essentially on the 27th to around about the 30th of May. And we'll try and find Teal Inlet as we approach. I think there's a new road now being built. I can't remember which side it's on. It might be a little bit to our north here. And essentially what's happening is the one of the reasons why 2 para was not helicoptered down to Goose Green is that the remaining helicopter capability that the task force had after the sinking of the Atlantic Conveyor was given to members of the Royal Marines and SAS, who saw an opportunity to seize Mount Kent. And Mount Kent for the Argentinians was a little bit too far to the west of Stanley. It was difficult for them to support it. It was slightly out of range, I think, as well, of their artillery. But it was essential that the British captured this position, the Mount Kent, because it overlooked these places, Teal Inlet and Estancia. Let me just pause here before I crash. I'm going to have to turn this weather off, I think. Let's give it the actual date. So we're talking around about June the 8th. June, when we put it June 9th will be fine. Let's give it a bit of that, and we'll change the weather to something which you can actually see. I'm going to try that. Actually, that's a little bit too... let's make it clear. I tried to fly with live weather as much as possible, but since it's historic anyway, we'll try to so this is actually Douglas. So this is where the Yomp of the Royal Marines, 42 Commando, moves around this way. They will secure Douglas here at this settlement. When we talk about settlements on the Falkland Islands, we're literally talking maybe 1 or 2 buildings. And most of the settlements are to do with either sheep or fishing areas. So we're going to then swing round to the right, and we'll come to this place called Teal Inlet. As I say, Teal Inlet is the place where, once it's secured, allows the British to bring these 2 LCUs around from San Carlos Bay to support the build-up. And this, if you've watched the previous episode when we were talking about Fearless, Fearless was short of 2 LCUs, and that contributed to the failure to offload the Welsh Guards, which on the night of the 7th, I think it was, which meant that they had to come back to San Carlos. They got transshipped over to Sir Galahad and then came back around, and due to loading issues, essentially were caught in daylight at Fitzroy on Sir Galahad. So the reason why they weren't offloaded like the Scots Guards were from Intrepid was because there was 2 LCUs essentially given over to moving supplies around to Teal Inlet. And there we go. This is Teal Inlet over here. So we're starting to see now the hills coming up, which will figure quite highly in the next few hours of discussion about the battles. So Teal Inlet is where the 3 Para, 42 Commando, 45 Commando, they all start to arrive here. They've managed to capture Mount Kent. The Royal Artillery have got some 105mm guns stationed on the western side in the lee of the mountain in preparation for the assaults on these hills around Stanley. So what we'll do is we'll start going into the mountains, and we'll do a quick recce, and we'll start trying to identify each mountain, and then we'll start to look at the each individual battle for the mountains. But you got to see, as you can see up in the top right, this sequence of events that lead up to the Argentine surrender occur over an intense period of around about 3 to 4 days. And because the British are on a clock here, the task force is literally the Hermes and Invincible and their support ships are literally rotting out in the South Atlantic at this point. Rear Admiral Sandy Woodward believes that, I think at this point he's got about 2 weeks left before he has to actually consider pulling his ships away. And so this is like if this doesn't get done now, then this will go into a winter, and then the whole tactics will have to change, probably. So it's got to be done, and this is the whole sense of the nature of this this war. So this is Teal Inlet. So this is one of the main landing positions, and becomes the forward supply base, basically, of the British. And we're going to move around now, and we'll come to this place called Estancia. This might get a little bit more tricky to spot these places. So it has been known that I will talk about somewhere and it'll be completely wrong. But Estancia is just, essentially, it's almost like a house. I think if we followed this road, actually, this is maybe possibly a newish road that's been put in. This should come to Estancia. And Estancia has a mountain or overlooking it, and this was seized by 3 para on the 1st of on the 10th of June. So you can see this is this ring of hills was so important to be captured before this forward operating base could be put in place, because any Argentine positions up here would have just had an artillery observation down onto them. And so this is why Thompson, I believe, gave the SAS and the Royal Marines helicopter priority over 2 para, was basically essentially to seize these hills. And we've just flown past, I think, a place called Top Marlow House, and this is where some special forces of the Argentines were met by the Royal Marine Mountain and Arctic Warfare cadre. That was on the 31st of May. So you can see that the British are pushing these the Argentines back into the Stanley area. And so for the Argentinians, from their point of view, they've just got to hold out. They're hoping that the weather's going to beat the British, and essentially a good defensive position around Stanley leaves the British exposed up here. Now around here somewhere is Estancia, at the end of one of these little inlets, I think. So we're at this place here now. This is, as I say, the mountain essentially over here. One of these ones is Estancia Mountain. I believe it might be that one there. This is, as I say, is captured on the 10th. Now remember, the British are landing at Fitzroy and Bluff Cove around about on the 8th of June into the south. And so this is a position that's now been taken to the sort of north. And once we get here, we'll do a little recce around just to see if we can spot some familiar land sight and get our bearings. And the most important one would be to try to locate Mount Kent. So I believe this is around here is Estancia. Now one of these mountains up here is Mount Kent, which is one of the highest mountains. Now you can tell, this is what I love about the Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can see these, they're almost like rock scree falls. If anyone's been to the Lake District or, you know, in Britain, that you're very familiar with these sort of rock forms, and these become very important, almost like they act as natural sort of defences. You imagine trying to cross these stone areas. So there's a lot of parts of the battlefield that are inaccessible because of these sort of rocks. Make it difficult to approach anyway. Right, we're popping over the top there. We should now see Stanley over to our left. And there she is. And we're just going to try and get our bearings here. So you can see how this area around to our right now is the sort of forward operating base that the British are setting up in Estancia to just over there. Whoops. Just below us here. So this is an important ridge here. And what I'll do is we'll just have a quick gander around. And what we're going to look for, we're going to look for places like, these are some of the battles we're going to try and talk about. There's going to be Longdon, which will be to the kind of north. There's should be a distinctive looking mountain called Two Sisters. We're going to look for places like Harriet, Tumbledown, Wireless Ridge. These are all quite famous now battlefields. Also William. You can see over to our to the south here. I believe this might be Bluff Cove, where we were talking about the other day. It's so it's going to be difficult to spot. But once we've found one, we should find the others. This might be a place called Goat Ridge. And we're going to be looking for scars of battle. We're going to be looking for shell holes. Now I know that a lot of the shelling that occurred in this area was on these are basically peat areas, and so the shelling was not as effective as it could have been. But we may see some evidence of 105mm shell holes. So we'll swoop back around, and I'm going to take a quick break. In that break, you can, as I say, go and try and, if you want to go grab that music, you can go and find it on Bandcamp. I usually do this, we can bung an advert in. I think Twitch likes to bung an advert in. And then when we come back, it gives me an opportunity just to make sure I'm in the right area. And then we'll look for the first mountain we're going to look for is essentially it's going to be Longdon, which is where we'll do the battles in sort of chronological order. So it'll be Longdon, Two Sisters, and Harriet. So let's just swing around here, and then I'll take a quick break. Okay, well, so we're pointing now towards Stanley, and I'll take a quick break here. It won't be long, just a couple of minutes, so don't go away, and if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the next episode. Oh, welcome back to Flight Past. My name's Simon. We are trying to find these battlefields in the Stanley Hills, and I just had a quick glance at my map, and I think we're pretty way off of where we're supposed to be. And this green line is showing where we should be. So we're going to head here, and this should be Longdon. So we're quite a long way actually away from where we were supposed to be. So you can see how confusing this terrain is. So we got Bluff Cove down on our right, and Fitzroy. So that was the scene of where we were talking the other day, and so we're going to come over this mountain here. Now this might be Mount Kent. One of these ones here, that might be Mount Kent. So I think we should be on the other side of that. So the battles we're going to start off with for the Falklands begins with the battles of Longdon, Two Sisters and Harriet. So they're basically happening at the same time. At the same time as well, just in the background, HMS Glamorgan is hit by a Exocet missile over here to out to sea, hit by a land-based Exocet missile fired from Stanley Point. And we'll just, as we so we can see now, that's Stanley, I believe. This here is Mount Kent. And we've got Challenger, I think. One of these ones here. So this is where the SAS managed to capture, essentially on the prior to, I think it was around about the 28th of May. This gives them forward observation, essentially on these mountains ahead to Argentina, and they also had an observation down here to the right, down to Bluff Cove. And remember, we almost had a friendly blue-on-blue fire down there because they almost mistook the helicopters dropping off 2 para down there as Argentine. So here we go. These are the mountains. Now, I believe, let me just say, this is so this mountain here with the 2 peaks is Two Sisters. I think in the middle is a ridge called Goat Ridge, and on the right-hand side, about here, I think, is Harriet, and just before it is a mountain called the Wall. And Two Sisters, on the other side of Two Sisters is the mountain called Longdon, and past Goat Ridge we'll then come, we should see a mountain called Tumbledown. William on its right hand side, and then Wireless Ridge is further east, past Longdon. So we'll fly over Two Sisters, which is this excuse me, is this mountains here, and so we'll come back and we'll discuss the battles here. And I believe this is Harriet there. So these 2 mountains plus Longdon are ones that are being assaulted on the 11th and 12th of June 1982. This is the Wall, this place here. And yeah, so that is Harriet, just to our right. This is Goat Ridge, and these is the Two Sisters right here. Now if we continue, essentially I think Longdon, yeah, is just over this way. It might be this area in shadow here. So we're flying over Two Sisters. We'll come back here. Yeah, this is a scene of some of the heaviest fighting of the war. And this is Longdon, just where my dot is now. Longdon is here. And then this ridge going down here is Wireless Ridge. And you've got Stanley there. So this is Longdon. Now Longdon was a very important position, and it was well defended because essentially the Argentines believed that the assault of the British would be coming from the north here. We talked about a few of the landing sites, the potential landing sites, and so Longdon was essentially quite an important position to protect the north and the northwest approach. Let's just jump out here and we'll be able to use the drone a little bit. So you can see straight away that there's obviously recent paths up here as people come up to pay their respects. And yeah, so this is Longdon. And essentially the paths might give a clue to the action about to unfold. This is 550 odd, I think, feet high, 600 maybe at the summit. And just we can see over to the left-hand side here, this is the Murrell River, and you've got and the Murrell River is important because this is a direction of how the two para come in to this position, essentially following the Murrell River, and between Two Sisters, which is here, just below us. So in this area between Two Sisters and Longdon, there was essentially a minefields put in here. And so, yeah, you can see the paths all around here. So this is Two Sisters, which we can see here. So let's start off then talking about Longdon. I'm just going to do a quick summary of it. I don't think you can do too much detail. So behind us here is there should be a creek. So there's mines in this area below us, protecting this sort of the gap in between the mountains of Longdon. Look at these holes here. This looks like shell holes. Or, yeah, probably shell holes. This is a creek, moves basically going down towards a stancia. And this was codenamed Free Kick as an area. And it's essentially the starting off point for the three para attack down in this area here. Now, other code names, so this is, they're called Free Kick. They use the rugby terms. So the first hill here, the main hill, is known as, or was codenamed Fly Half. The second ridge back here, this section here was known as Fullback, and then there was a an area sort of about here. There's in between two minefields. It might be this area here. This looks like it's possibly the area that little hill here is known as was codenamed Wing Forward. And so what you basically get is 3 para are into A, B, and C company, and essentially A and B company. Sorry, B company will move in from this section here, and will so there's the 4th, 5th, and 6th platoon will essentially move up this ridge, this direction here. This is B company, and they will come over the top into here, and A company would move around to this area called Wing Forward, which is essentially where this sort of just behind the ridge, and like I say, somewhere around here. Minefields, there were minefields basically where I'm looking now, and another one over here, and they mined the areas essentially where the stones aren't. And there, as I said, there was a large minefield over here in this area. And before we just one of the questions that people have asked about this is, why did the Argentines not fortify these positions with barbed wire? And the reason was because the barbed wire was on one of their ships called the Cordoba, I think it's called, and that was at the Mar del Plata, and had failed to leave port because of the exclusion zone. So the Argentines didn't have the barbed wire to basically fortify this position. And the other question people ask is, if this is an assault, obviously, by paratrooper, 3 para, and the other, and with all these mountains as well, is why did the British just not use napalm? It's an obvious defensive position. You could napalm this position quite quickly and move around it, and that the answer to that was essentially it was a political decision, and it comes from and back in the UK, for the war to have support, it needed the support of the Labour Party, and the leader of the Labour Party was Michael Foot, and Michael Foot had essentially been against the Vietnam War because of the use of napalm, and he had been very public about that prior to the war, and so he couldn't go back on that stance, that position, principle, and so in order to maintain the political unity back in the UK, napalm was not an option that the Major General Jeremy Moore and his predecessor Brigadier Thompson could use, essentially. And the other one as well was why was the artillery just not used to pound these places to submission. And essentially the answer to that was that the artillery supplies that was coming in at Teal Inlet to Mount Kent, so essentially back here, well, there was a limited supply of them, and so initially Brigadier Thompson decided that he had to keep hold of those supplies for basically contingency plans. And also there was a number of things that happened where basically a silent infiltration had succeeded, and so it was decided that these assaults on these positions would be done silently to begin with. And as you can see, this is Longdon. So behind over there, actually, you can see that mountain just behind there is Tumbledown. And then you've got Two Sisters up to our right here. So Longdon is a very important position in terms of the Argentine defense, covering the approaches from the northwest. So, 3 Para, 3rd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment, is tasked with attacking this position, and this is led by Lieutenant Colonel Hugh Pike. And the defense of this position is the Argentinian 7th Infantry Regiment, and they're under the command of Major Carlos Carrizo Salvadores. Sorry about pronunciation. So 3 Para essentially was for around about 450 men are going to be assaulting this position. They will be assaulting a position that's being held by around about 278 men mainly from the B Company of the 7th Infantry Regiment. 3 Para is supported by 105mm guns, and they are stationed behind Mount Kent. So the British guns are back here. Essentially, probably in this sort of area. I'm not exactly sure whereabouts, but in this general area here. So they were the 105mm guns. They were also supported by 20 the mortars, essentially. They had mortar support. They had Milans, these sort of anti-tank weapons, but could be used against bunkers. And they had naval gun fire support from Avenger. And behind them as well was going to be 2 Para as a reserve. So the plan was essentially, as I said, to approach from the west, and some to move around from the north. And they were going to be approaching up here as a silent attack. And the H hour, as they say in military terms, was around about 8 o'clock on the 11th of June. Right, I'm going to take a quick break there. When we come back, we'll have a quick look at the fighting here at Tumbledown. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that sort of stuff. Say hello and press your like buttons. And I will, thank you very much. And I will come back later in a couple of minutes. If you're on Twitch, and if you're on YouTube, I'll be in the next episode. Welcome back. Welcome back. My name is Simon, and welcome back to Flight Past. And as we continue our story about the Falklands War, and what you're looking at right now is the view that B Company of 3 Para had on the well, it wouldn't be this view because it would be at night, but it was around about 8 o'clock on the 11th of June 1982, and they are tasked with moving up this hill and taking this the summit here, which was Longdon, and the code name for that top is called Fly Half. Now, Jeremy, Major General Jeremy Moore was holding back its artillery, so wanted a silent attack initially up these slopes. And this is being protected by the, I think it's the B Company of the 7th Infantry Regiment, Argentine Infantry Regiments. There's around about 278 troops up here on this mountain, and they're protecting the north side and the northwest approach into Stanley. You can see Stanley over there. And they've got artillery support from Stanley itself, from Tumbledown, which is the this mountain here, and so they had a lot of support. They also had sniper positions here, looking down this way. So the a plan was for it to be a silent attack. So the attack goes in at 8 o'clock in the evening, and it's all very well until Corporal Brian Mill steps on a mine, and this area down here is mined, and so this silent attack stalls immediately, and this triggers um, um, massive amounts of intense Argentine fire coming down this mountain. And what essentially occurs then is in the next 10 to 12 hours is some of the fiercest close quarter fighting of the war, involving small arms fire, grenades, bayonets, hand-to-hand fighting across this rocky terrain. It's described as some of the bloodiest fighting that's occurred in the British Army since the Korean War. And B Company are the ones from Free Para. They're moving up this hill, and we get there is essentially 4 and 5 platoon will move up to the slightly to the left hand side here. 6 platoon will move around and approach up this steeper side on this side, and then A Company is moving around and coming up from an area which is known as Wing Forward, which is around about this position, somewhere around here. Get my bearings. I just wondering if I could get a better detail of that. Yeah, these are Argentine positions all along here, and these sort of ridges you've got here is where there was intense fire, and you get a stalling of the attack going on. And Sergeant Ian McKay, he is charging a machine gun position, essentially. I'm going to have to sort of it's in this area here. I think it might be oops. Yeah, it's in this sort of area here. He's trying to where these rocks are. This way, I think he comes around this rock here. You may even see a stone with where he was. Possibly one of these stones here is where he was shot. And he's the second award of the Victoria Cross. He's awarded that posthumously. So he was leading a charge essentially up this route here, trying to charge a machine gun position. He wasn't the only one, of course, to be killed on this part of the hill. Bert Crow, to name a few, McCarthy, West, Hedeker, Phillips. There's a lot of Greenwood, Scott Dodsworth. There's a lot of casualties. But essentially, with the support of some artillery fire, so with the redirection of Argentinian fire to other parts of the battlefield away from here, and then with the support of A Company coming up this side, the battle raged for about, as I say, for about 10 hours. And there was when I mentioned all those names, there was actually 23 British killed um, on this hill. After the capture of the hill by the morning, the position becomes bombarded from that mountain over there, which is Tumbledown. And so some of the casualties are included the shelling from that position there. So they're believed to be around about 17 to 18 killed in the assault, the main assault on the position, and the 5 or so killed afterwards by shelling. There's probably in the ballpark figure of 47 to 60 wounded. And the Argentines had 31 killed and 120 wounded, and 50 of them were captured. So we can see evidence of paths. Obviously, this is one of the nearer mountains to Stanley, so this obviously is a pilgrimage for many people. In terms of trenches and things, I can't see any evidence. Possibly that line there looks a bit suspicious. Like I say, I think over here there seems to be evidence of some shelling here. I don't know whose that would be. That's probably Argentinian. And we'll have a look at Two Sisters later. Okay, so let's do that. Let's have a look then at Two Sisters. So at the same time, that attack was going in, then we have the British 45 Royal Marine Commandos are going to try to attack this position here, and this is called Two Sisters, and you can see it's got essentially got a double summit. And so preliminary look, you can see there's some scarring in between, definitely some shell holes in between the two. Got looks like a modern path round to the south. So this again, it happens on the 11th and the 12th of June. And you can see now the sort of the ring of the extent of the ring of the Argentine defences. This is sort of the maximum extent that they had of serious defence. And the other hill in the initial assault is Harriet. So let me just and Harriet is this mountain here. So this definitely had Argentinian troops on it. Remember, we were discussing how the Argentine troops up here could see down into Bluff Cove over there, and see the ships landing there. So this is the other side, and then we've got Goats Ridge in the middle, and then the Twin Sisters on the right-hand side. Right, so let's talk about the two sisters. Find my notes. So we're talking 45 Commando. They come from Mount Kent, which is this mountain you can see in the distance there. And they will approach from two different directions. They essentially got three companies, X, Y, Z, and the headquarters. And one would come across from this direction here. The X company will move across. This is the Murrell River, and they will be approaching this direction. And essentially, what you can get here is that there are mines where these stone drawers are. In between them, there are minefields. And then the other direction is you've got coming from this direction here. And the two code names that they give to this position, this is known as the long toenail. And this one over here is called, I think it's called Summer Days. Y, HQ, and Z company will move up from the Murrell Bridge. Which I think is down here somewhere. Might be here. It's called the Murrell Bridge, and it moves up. They move up this way. Now this must be the Murrell Bridge here. And so you can see this line in here. They follow this, essentially going up to this ridge, this side. And as they do, they're essentially going in between two minefields in this area here. And the Murrell Bridge is codenamed Pub Garden. So they'll be moving it. And this here looks suspiciously like some damage, possibly shell fire. I'm not sure if this is some of this is not natural. So 45 Commando split into two groups. Three companies will be attacking this way, and one to the from the right hand side there. Now, at the same time as 45 Commandos attacking this position here, we got 3 para on their left, and 42 Commando will be attacking Harriet on their right. So it's essentially a 3 Commando brigade operation going on the same night. This is 45 Commandos, essentially going to be around about 600 men, and it's commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Whitehead. Again, they're getting supported by the 29 Commando Regiment of the Royal Artillery. Their 105 millimeter guns are back on the other side of Mount Kent. They've also got elements of 40 Commando with them. Engineers, and they got they're getting support from HMS Glamorgan, providing a bombardment from the sea. The people on the top of this ridge, we're looking at essentially a company of Argentinians from the 4th Infantry Regiment, and that's under the command of Major Ricardo Cordon. And he has some support as well from the 6th Infantry Regiment. So the 600 troops of the Royal Marines are essentially attacking about 350 troops up here in prepared positions, machine guns, mortars, snipers up here with minefields surrounding. So again, it's meant to be a silent attack, and starts off with X Company. They're essentially doing almost a sort of a diversionary attack up this ridge here to what's known as the Long Toenail. And then X and Y and Z Company and HQ Company will proceed up here. Now, the battle for Longdon began at 8 o'clock, 8:15, something like that. But due to the nature of the terrain trying to get here, the Royal Marines are delayed, and their attack doesn't go in until 11 o'clock on the 11th. The pace of the battle is slow going. X Company gets bogged down here, trying to get up the Long Toenail, machine gun positions, and they're having to use small arms fire, anti-tank weapons, Milan missiles to try to move these people. But essentially, they do manage to get up here and take this position by the morning. And both positions are secured by dawn. Now you can see here, this is definite scarring, concentrated position. These holes here are definitely scars from bombardment. I think this might be some naval bombardment from Glamorgan. It could also be after the event. The Argentinians coming back, but you can see how pounded this area is here. This is these look 105mm-ish shell holes. If anyone knows, but look at that, all of these potted marks here in between the two peaks. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I mean, it's completely peppered, isn't it? This attack, the British suffer around about 8 killed. Several wounded, and the Argentines have about 20 killed, 50 wounded, and about 50 captured. So that is Two Sisters. So let's then just leap across to Harriet. And this again, these three mountains attacked at the same time. And this one was one conducted by men of the 42 Commando Royal Marines, around about 400 men. Now, just a little bit of this ridge codenamed Zoya. This section here. Now down to the south here, between here, this is known as Wall Mountain. So essentially running in between the two mountains here is a minefield running up in this direction. A number of mines laid in this approach. Down here as well, by this lake, around this lake on this side. And Wall Mountain was codenamed Tara. And Goat Ridge was codenamed Katrina. This is Zoya. And essentially there's a number of clashes that occur prior to this battle on the 5th of June, 7th of June. There was actually, we get Scots guards are moving along from the right, along from Bluff Cove. We get Welsh guards and Scots guards moving up from the 7th of June. Welsh guards moving up here as well, and so there was a lot of it's almost unbelievable, really, because the plan for the 42 Commando was to essentially come around this lake to the right and move up and attack the position almost essentially from behind, coming up this way here. But on the 11th of June, some remnants of the Welsh Guards were actually moving up and were coming up this area as well. And it kind of is kind of ruining their surprise, as it were. But it was almost deemed by the Argentinians as like, oh, that's an obvious feint, and they wouldn't make it so obvious that they're going to come around that way. But what we get then is essentially 42 Commando with L Company and K Company will move around, essentially following this road, really. Actually, it comes around. They come around this way, move up down here, and they will attack Harriet from this side, this way. I'll find one. See if I can find any more details of that. Okay, and so we're looking here to around about 400 men of the Royal Marines. They're commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Nick Vore. He's got an artillery support from the 29th Commando Regiment, Royal Artillery, and engineers from the 59th Independent Commando Squadron. And they will be receiving naval gunfire support out there from HMS Yarmouth. And they will have, as I mentioned, the Welsh Guards, remnants of the Welsh Guards from Fitzroy, and 40 Commando are in reserve in supporting roles. Argentina, they have essentially used troops from the 4th Infantry Regiment. These are under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Diego Soria. And they numbered, with support from a guy, Captain Carlos Arroyo, They numbered around about 402. They were again in prepared positions here, mortars, minefields, as you say, and machine guns. This attack goes in. There is actually a prepared naval bombardment for this one, and as I say, it's a flanking approach coming around this side. Now, I say the Welsh Guards do this sort of noisy advance, which kind of works in the British favour, let's put it that way. And the Royal Marines go in here after dark. Again, close quarter fighting. Bunkers, strong points up here. And again, Milan missiles are used, machine guns, grenades. But again, this ridge is captured by the dawn. Now I can't see any obvious scarring. But if it was hit by naval gunfire from Yarmouth, I'm not seeing anything, absolutely honestly. Now this is actually cleared with relatively light losses compared to the other features. They take a large amount of prisoners, and this helps to. So by the morning of the 12th, then we have essentially got these three peaks in a arc around Stanley have been taken by the British by the 12th. The casualties for Harriet is 2 Royal Marines killed, plus 1 Welsh Guard, and around about 30 wounded. And Argentines had 18 killed and approximately 300 captured in the end. So this has this one went well. Right, I think on that note then we'll leave that there for now. I'm going to take a break, and if you're watching on Twitch, then I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And when we come back, we're going to look at these 2 positions here, which is essentially the battles of Tumbledown and William. And then we'll also look at Wireless Ridge, which is this position down here. And we'll talk about them, these battles that occurs on the 13th and 14th of June 1982. So thank you very much. I will be back in a moment. Welcome. Welcome to Flight Pass. My name's Simon. Good to see you. I'm glad that anyone's watching. We've been talking about the Falklands War, and we're coming up to the last few battles that occurred in this war. And we just been discussing the battles of Longdon, Two Sisters, and Harriet. And you essentially can see below us here the mountain of Longdon. This was battles that occurred on the 11th and 12th of June 1982. Now the below us was Longdon. This was the position that was assaulted by 3 para. Then we got Two Sisters, and this was assaulted by 45 Commando. And then on the other side over here is Harriet, and that was assaulted by 40 Commando, 42 Commando. Sorry, no, I always get this wrong. 45 and Harriet was 42 Commando. So these all were going in on the 11th, the evening of the 11th and 12th of May, and we just briefly ran over the approaches that they've done to these mountains. If you want to read up more, there's some really great books out there, and one of the ones I've been using a lot on this thing is Razor's Edge by Huey. It's got some excellent maps in that. And so now we're going to move on to essentially these two mountains down here on our left. This is Harriet. So this was the one which 42 Commando attacks. This is Goat's Ridge in between the two. And as I say, we've been looking at some evidence of pitting, shell holes, as you can see in the terrain. And now we're going to move down here to these two mountains here, where my white dot is called Tumbledown. On my right hand side there is William, and then this ridge, this runs down from Longdon, is called Wireless Ridge. And so this is now we're getting into the inner cordon of the Argentine defences. So this is Tumbledown. The battle for Tumbledown occurs on the 13th and 14th of June 1982. It's one of the fiercest battles to occur, and this is essentially conducted by troops of the 2nd Battalion of the Scots Guards. Now this means that this is one of the first battles that's occurred by the 5th Army Brigade that's come down behind the Commando Brigade of the Paras and the Royal Marines. They've arrived with the QE2. They were dropped off by Intrepid at Fitzroy, and they've moved around. So this is their first engagement of that Guards Brigade here. Let me just pause here. We can jump out and get into the drone. I think it'll be a little bit easier. So this is Tumbledown here. Now, the Scots Guards were commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Scott, and he was supported by mortars from the 42 Commando of the Royal Marines, and a troop of light tanks from the Blues and Royals, which had 2 scimitars and 2 Scorpions light tanks. And There was also a troop of there was elements, sorry, of the 1st Battalion of the 7th Gurkha Rifles. They were kind of in reserve, and they were tasked with the Mount William on the right here, which is this this knob here. So the total force assaulting this position here on the 13th and 14th of June 1982 was around about 640 men. Argentinians, they were the well-trained 5th Marine Battalion, and they were under the command of Carlos Robaccio. They were reinforced by elements of the army from the 4th and 12th Infantry Regiments, from some of the people who have been streaming back from the hills you see before you. So there was essentially an estimated potential defenders in this position here of around about 700 to 800 men. So they were in strong positions again. They were in bunkers, trenches, machine guns. They had mortars, snipers on this this battlefield. Let me see if I can find so essentially the route that we're talking about, the Scots Guards, they basically this is Harriet here, so they moved around Harriet and they were coming in from this direction here, so they're coming up and they sort of sweep around here. The 2nd Battalion of Scots Guards will go straight up the ridge and come around this way, and the Gurkhas would actually come around the side here and approach William from this direction here. Again, look at these. This is appears to be some shell holes here in between. This looks possible naval. They look 105mm maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of these little round black dots are all shell holes peppering this ridge. Probably not so much where the rock is, but definitely in between the two positions you can see evidence of shell holes. Again, look here, there's lots of little shell holes there. All along this side, this is Tumbledown. Again, there's more here in this area. In terms of those stone runs, obviously provide difficult areas to cross. You can see it here, and where the stone runs aren't, there was minefields placed. Okay, let's find the hold on. Sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, so let's talk about what occurs here then. The battle goes in here on the 13th of June, and there is a diversionary assault from the south by a reconnaissance platoon and the light tanks of the Blues and Royals. And they're basically coming from this direction here and trying to direct Argentine forces to reinforce William. And then we have the main assault is by the Scots Guards, 2nd Battalion, and they come up this ridge here. A G Company secures the western end relatively quickly, and then the left flank company coming around this side face intense resistance, machine gun fire, sniper fire in these sort of rocky sangars or crevices and areas. So the progress in this area is slow, but there's bayonet charges here, grenades, and eventually the right flank company pushes on towards the eastern summit here. Fierce hand-to-hand fighting. There's an area in between. The peat area in between the two absorbs lots of these mortar fire things, so that doesn't make them very useful. But eventually, the weight of numbers and the supporting fire from the artillery of offshore and onshore breaks the resistance, and the mountain is secured by about 8 o'clock in the morning. Scots Guards casualties, there was about 9 to 10 killed here, plus a Royal Engineer, and around about 40 to 60 injured, wounded. Argentine casualties believed to be about 30 killed, 100 wounded, about 30 captured. And because this is, as you can see, this is the final sort of bastion before Stanley. This was a particularly stubborn resistance by the Argentine forces. And the fighting is over broken ground, difficult. And then the last one we're going to talk about is Wireless Ridge. And this is this area over here. And just find my notes again. Sorry about this. So this is Wireless Ridge here, long position, moving down from Longdon. So this is Longdon, and essentially the ridge begins kind of it's sort of this position here, and there's 3 areas or 2 areas that on this ridge, codenamed Citadel, which is about here, and then there's blueberry pie, this section, and out here, and this is an area known as apple pie. Again, you can see the scarring going on this. And then there's a area over here at the end of Longdon, which is called Rough Diamond. These are the code names used. And as you can see, the definitive part of this battlefield is the marshy area is a major factor in the approach. Essentially, we're talking two para moving down this way, coming from the north. So it's a long, elongated ridge, essentially, that sort of commands the sort of approaches to Stanley. And so you can see how important commanding this ridge would be in being able to command observation posts over Argentine positions. Now, this was going to be, and originally, the 3 para would move after taking Longdon down onto the ridge, but they get held up here, and 2 para essentially are instructed to move across down this way. And we basically get a number of phases to this battle. Let me just find the... So phase 1 comes from the direction, or the code name Rough Diamond, which I believe is this position here. So D Company of 2 para, 2nd Battalion Parachute Regiment, approach from this direction here. They get to Rough Diamond. They push south onto the ridge here. This is known as the Citadel, and this is their first the way they will approach from this direction. And that's the first phase. The second phase is from a place called approaching from a place called Apple Pie, which is essentially where we're looking here, and this is where B Company and A Company will reach down to Apple Pie here, and then provide supporting fire from this direction. And then C Company will come around the loop here, this bend in this inlet here, and they would essentially be coming around and attacking this side down this way. And so then D Company essentially are then going to move from the Citadel here, and then move down the ridge. And remember, this is Moody Brook Barracks below us here. You can see there. Any evidence of fighting? Usually looking at some shell holes, possible shell holes. Definitely some there. On that part of the ridge. Second Battalion Parachute Regiment. This is now being commanded by Lieutenant Colonel David Chandler. Now he had taken over from. He had relieved Major Chris Keeble, who had taken over from Colonel H. Jones at Goose Green. Once again, they are supported by a troop of Blues and Royals light tanks, 2 Scorpions and 2 Scimitars, 2 batteries of 29th Commando Regiment Royal Artillery, and they were 105mm guns, and the naval gunfire from HMS Ambuscade. There's around about 600 men assaulting this position on the British side. Argentina, they defended this position with elements of the 7th Infantry Regiment under Lieutenant Colonel Omar Jimenez. They got some support from units of the 10th Cavalry Squadron. There's roughly believed to be about 500 defenders along this ridge here. This attack on the 13th, because now you see there's no need to be silence about it, so there's artillery support is going in. So there's a preparatory artillery bombardment, and this is probably what you're seeing. There's scars along this ridge here. You can see all along the ridge. These are naval bombardment, and this precedes an attack that goes in at 9:45 on the 13th of June. So as I say, they attack in phases. First phase moving in from Rough Diamond in this direction here, supported by light tanks. And D Company makes it up onto the ridge. And then B and A Company are providing a support from this position here, so they're providing flanking fire along here as D Company moves down the ridge. Stiff fighting. There's bunkers believed on the eastern edge of the ridge. They were eventually overcome, and a counterattack was repelled as well in the morning, and the entire ridge is then secured by the 14th of June. And so it's the 14th of June, and at this point is when the British can see streams of Argentine soldiers pouring off Tumbledown and down into Stanley on the 14th. Wireless Ridge and casualties, 3 British killed, 11 wounded. Argentina had around about 25 killed here, 125 wounded and 37 captured. And so this one is a battle that was noted for its coordination with fire support and with the light tanks. And that is that on the 14th. Streams of Argentine troops are flocking back into our Stanley, and this is on the 14th of June. Then the Argentine, the white flag is seen flying over Stanley, and this is on the 14th of June, and it's been 74 days since we were here. Not in real life, well, maybe possibly, but this is where the Argentines had invaded. They first came ashore here at this beach, this one here, 74 days ago. And they're now surrendered with so if you're here in Stanley looking up into the mountains, you're now surrounded by British controlling the high ground. So this is Governor House here. So as you can see, you're looking up, you've got William on the left, and you've got Tumbledown in the middle. You can see the 2 sisters, those 2 peaks with Mount Kent behind it. Tumbledown on the right hand side, and this wireless ridge on the right hand side. So now the whole of this area surrounded. Argentinians surrender. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your follows. Lovely to see. Thank you. Really appreciate that you've been with me this far. I hope you've enjoyed it. But essentially, that is the story of the Falklands War. And you can see, and I've really enjoyed coming here and having a look at these sites, the terrain, getting a really good insight into the war, the distances involved, and the sheer always shocked with how quickly it occurred, how that being able to sail 8,000 miles, land forces here, and retake a position down 8,000 miles away in 74 days is amazing. But as I say, Woodward had written that the task force was probably about a week away from having to pull out, essentially because the ships were rotting at sea. And so that if the war had gone into over the winter, and they had to have done a kind of a stone aircraft carrier tactic strategy, then the whole result might have been different. There might have been a negotiation involved at the end of it. But no, the Argentines were removed from the Falkland Islands. Right, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, follow, subscribe, and we will be moving on to a new subject next time. I will keep it quiet for now. What we're going to be preparing, it won't be so long. I don't think it'll be a little short one, a little palate cleanser. We'll do a different subject when I come back. So thank you very much for watching. Good to see you, and I hope you are all well. Bye bye.